Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network, presented by Patriot Patch Company and forpatriots.com. Tonight, we have special guests, and I'll let them introduce themselves. Welcome to the guys from Alpha Munitions. If I could speak, we'd be doing better. How's it going, gentlemen?
It's going good, Mike. Thanks for having us.
You bet. Thanks for coming on. So, if you guys want to introduce yourselves, and then we can kind of start asking some questions.
Yeah, my name's Tom Danielson.
And I'm Andrew Rickson.
All right. So, are you both reloaders?
Yeah, we're both reloaders. That's kind of what got us into this business. Is the passion was shooting and reloading.
So what's each of your favorite cartridge to reload?
Probably now the easiest one, 6-dasher, because you can put anything in it and it's going to shoot. But that or the 7-saw. It's a little bit of a wildcat, but we make brass for it now. That's
nice.
One of my pet favorites.
Yeah, we do a lot of competition stuff. So 6GT, they're all fun because they're incredibly consistent. The whole BR family, the BRA, like Andrew said, dasher.
Yeah.
They just shoot.
So how did Alpha Munitions get started?
Yeah, so we started the company back in 2015. Different backgrounds. I came out of medical device. Andrew came out of the oil industry, and we have a pharma partner and a chemistry partner. And we just weren't enjoying what we were doing, and we loved shooting. And we saw a gap in the market for a premium American-made rifle brass manufacturer. So started in 15, started going commercial in 17-ish. And then we launched what we call our OCD technology in right around 2020.
All right. So what sets Alpha apart?
Yeah, so it's kind of, without getting extremely technical on it, we look at 3 variables. Consistency. When you look at a case, we look at the consistency, the strength, and stability. So consistency is we want to have very consistent internals. If you have very consistent internals, you end up with low ESs, SDs, which usually translates, downrange. Strength. The stronger the case is, the less issues you're going to have in inclement weather, in dust, poor conditions. You can run higher nodes. And then the real thing that our OCD technology, the big thing is the stability to the case. So for reloaders, if we can make the case extremely stable, so every time you fire it, the brass is moving and flowing. If we can make a case more stable, the brass moves and flows less, which means it stays more consistent firing to firing, if that makes sense. So our case, and Andrew can speak to it from an engineering perspective, reduction in plastic deformation.
Yes, particularly in the case head. So, of course, you want ductility up it by the mouth and the shoulder so it will seal to the chamber, and then you can resize it. And then at the case head is where Tom's referencing is the strength of the case and less plastic deformation. So when you look at case head growth, how much does it actually physically change and stay, right? Because you're always going to get elastic where it bounces out, comes back down a bit. And so we see quite a bit less physical deformation or plastic deformation in that case head. So those internal capacities at the base of the case really stay consistent. We don't see that primer pocket flow or the flow around the primer pocket. And so when you look at shot to shot over the life of the case, we keep a pretty consistent velocity of the bullet due to how consistent we keep that internal capacity.
So if I'm a case head measurement kind of guy to check my pressures, So I'm going to get less movement out of your case heads than I am out of other premium brass. Is what you're saying.
Correct. We usually see it's about 1 thou to 1.5 thou less at the high end.
It's also a bit like chamber dependent. I think, if everyone goes through and there's good gunsmiths that cut tight chambers, there's bad gunsmiths that cut loose chambers. So always go to a good gunsmith. But depending on where the case is supported, and if you go above the case head at like that 0.2 mark, you'll see more expansion there depending on how that chamber's cut too. So that's something that we always watch for and we always look for, is to see that diameter growth at that 0.2 mark. And that kind of gives an idea of how tight that chamber was cut, if it was cut correctly or not.
And the bolt fitment to the chamber face.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So the some of the competition cartridges that we do, say that BR family, there's been issues with what people call either the dasher click or the BR click, and it's after a few firings, you're getting that last 20% of the bolt lift gets a little bit hard. We were able to strengthen the case upwards of 20-ish%, which eliminated that problem, eliminates the need for small base sizing, which solves a lot of issues that the community had.
Okay. There's some people on Discord that part of our group that talk about primer pockets and flash holes. And they want to know, do you recommend cutting your primer pockets back, reaming your flash holes? What size are your flash holes? Does it depend upon the case?
So that's a really good question. And the one thing that we do is we ensure the cases are incredibly consistent from the factory. We are 100% inspecting every single case. We're actually 3D imaging it on a laser system. So as far as the primer pocket and flash holes, we say no, because you'll never see a burr in our flash hole, and our primer pockets are designed, we feel correctly. So we say no. We say on a virgin piece of brass, we recommend just a simple chamfer into burr and fire it. So our brass has won a lot of precision rifle series matches virgin, which is quite unique. The flash hole thing is really interesting, and I'll have Andrew get into it. We really set out to find out why in small primer brass companies were using 60 or 62 thou flash hole. And so we actually called several of the companies and asked them, and there was a myth, and you read in the forums that you have to use a small flash hole. We called the companies and they said they'd never tested it. So we set out to test it, and we went from 40 to 90.
Yeah, I think it was 45. 45 to 90 thou in 5 thou increments in diameter. And we looked at what would produce the best results. And in initial testing, we went through and we saw that actually keeping the standard 80 thou in a small primer, so your large primer flash hole, that 80 thou flash hole, was producing best results at range. We did this in conjunction with some bench rest shooters. We know the bench rest shooters are, nitpicky. They weigh primers. And so it's a very challenging thing to test just the flash hole. It takes a lot more time and testing on it, and to make sure you actually segment out the different variables. But yeah, all testing came back, and we saw that 80 thou flash hole was performing best with those small primers. We also did some testing in a separate test where we looked at that flash hole in cold weather conditions. What we wanted to look for is consistent ignition. And what we found with a small primer with the small flash hole, your standard 60 thou flash hole, it was actually producing poor ignition in colder temperatures. In standard conditions, we didn't see any difference. But in ESs and SDs only, we didn't actually test downrange accuracy on that one. But then in the cold conditions, we did see the advantage to the large 80 thou flash hole.
And so with that testing, the testing went on for an entire season in bench rest. And, obviously there's tons of variables. There's a shooter, there's the gunsmith, but that brass, which was the BRA brass with an 80 thou flash hole, went on to break 8 IBS world records probably the best performance in the history of IBS bench press shooting.
2 of them were ag records too.
And 2 of them were ag records, which are the key records in bench press shooting.
Right.
So it wasn't just we saw good results on ladder tests. The brass went on to perform. And if you look at precision rifle shooting competitions globally, it's probably the most winning brand now. So it's hard to dispel some of these legends. And what we want to do is say, we don't care what size. We'll do whatever flash hole performs the best. And let's just once and for all finally test it. And let's share it with the community instead of keeping things proprietary. And so we talked to a few of the other companies, and they were going to do tests in conjunction. And I said, let's just be open and share the data. But unfortunately, they weren't able to get the funding to do it. But hopefully they will in the future.
Okay. Next question is about necks and neck tension and neck thickness. How do you maintain your consistency in your neck thickness? And I know bench resters are big neck turners. So, they're sitting there going, okay, 11 or 10 thou as far as a neck thickness or under, maybe some into the 8.
Going to take it? Yeah, I think that's a good question. I mean, first, how we maintain it is just through. And I give you a little bit of background. So the way we manufacture is using a statistic process control method. And so, unlike some of the older equipment, say from World War II, our equipment's very automated, and we don't produce 150,000 pieces in a shift. We produce a lot less. We produce 15 to 20,000. And so, with that slower speed, we're capable of taking, Andrew will know the exact number, but we're inspecting every 200 parts through multiple areas of the process. And we're watching for any variation in neck wall changes. So we can control that very, very well. So coming out of the factory, it's extremely consistent, if that makes sense. And then to speak to kind of the necks and the thickness.
Yeah, just, with that, we developed some proprietary tooling in our taper process that produces not only very consistent neck tension and also neck wall thickness. As Tom's saying, we monitor it very closely and we'll adjust tooling to make sure that we keep that same wall thickness throughout a production run and from production run to production run. So if we run a 6-dasher 2 years ago, we want to hit that same wall thickness today. And we'll monitor and record and keep track of all of it. But then as it pertains to neck tension, we all understand neck tension as an interference fit. So you have the bullet diameter, you have your neck diameter, you subtract the 2 and that's your interference fit. And so we look to try and get about a 2 thou interference fit out of the factory. We have specific mandrel tooling that will set that and hold it to very good consistency. And we just, again, we're pin gauges. If your viewers are familiar with pin gauges, we have sets of very, very accurate pin gauges that we're constantly, as Tom said, we're checking 225 225 total measurements for every 600 parts. So we take that 600 parts, and as it goes through our process, we measure it 225 times. And so part of that is neck tension, and we're checking that through, and that's how we keep it very consistent. If we see a variation or something change, we'll stop the machine. We'll look at the tooling. We'll adjust the tooling and get it back up and running so that the part stays the same. Because something about brass manufacturing is that we always like to say it's a bit of a black art. You could run the exact same tooling and have a different lot of cups, and you're going to see a different end result. And, some manufacturers may say, hey, that's fine, run it. It's within SAMI spec. We don't run to SAMI spec. We run much tighter. And so we'll say, hey, we've got this variation, cup hardness has changed a little bit. That caused this effect down process. Let's change this tooling out. Let's get it back to where we want it. And so that's how we keep track of everything, and we'll adjust accordingly. So
do you make your own cups, or are you buying blanks already?
No, we buy the blanks,
but we design. Okay. So we design a very specific cup. So we send them the dimensions, we send the metallurgical properties, and we say, hey, we need to hit this standard. and we're checking them. We have a third-party tester that once we receive cups, we'll test them to make sure they're to spec. Once we say they are, then we'll go through, put them through the process. And then again, when we're tuning in machines, so we'll get a new let's say we're doing a caliber change to 6.5 Creedmoor. We're putting in a new cup, new tooling. We're testing it every step of the way to make sure we get the numbers we want out of it, so that we don't produce a different product.
Okay. Which is different than a lot of companies. A lot of companies will produce their own blank and cup and go from there.
Yeah, it's not incredibly common. Cupping, you'd have to have a pretty big facility for your cupping operation to be sitting idle a lot if you had a smaller facility, just because of the speed that they move.
Got it. Okay.
But companies do. There are companies that do certainly.
Well, there's big companies. Yeah.
Yep.
I understand.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're with your measurements and everything, you're maintaining internal volume. You're maintaining your thicknesses and hardnesses. And the question that I have next then is, do you recommend annealing with every round?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we induction anneal on our production line, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the AMP annealer, Annealing Made Perfect. Yep. So ultimately, what we say is, if you do anneal, do it every single time, because you want to maintain consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And the more consistent you can make that piece of brass and the Vickers hardness of that neck and shoulder, ultimately, the more consistent you're going to have firing to firing.
But I will also add, though, that there's a lot of, we talk to customers all the time, and they unfortunately don't anneal correctly. There's a lot of misconception about annealing, and so it's good if you're annealing correctly every single time, and that's great. But there's also a lot of variance and differences depending on the methods they're using for annealing. And so that's where, brass can, if every piece isn't consistent, then going back to neck tension, if your hardness values are varying from piece to piece, your neck tension is going to vary as well. Your bullet release is going to vary, which is going to perform poorly downrange. So the key thing with that I stress when I talk to customers about annealing is that you're consistent. And so if your hardness is consistent from case to case to case, that's great.
And that's actually a good point, because poor annealing will result in worse performance than not annealing.
Yeah.
So if you did 10 firings not annealing and 10 firings annealing incorrectly, you'll get better performance out of the not annealing.
Yeah.
There's an art to annealing, unless
sure.
unless you're using one of the induction annealers, and even then, the AMP seems to be the only one that can produce consistent results over time.
Yeah, it's a nice machine, and that's not to say some of the flame annealers, when they get dialed in, they produce really, really consistent, really good results.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just making sure, and sometimes if you're seeing some weird things happening with the rifle after annealing, that's one of the first places to check and make sure you got the process down.
So here's a question. Say you get somebody that is using a flame annealer, and they get a run that they screw it up. Say they didn't notice that the propane tank was getting low. And so they're not paying attention to the flame. And so it's not staying consistently blue because there's getting more air in the propane. Is that something that's correctable after, say they replace the tank and fix the error, and then the next time they run it through for annealing, then it's not like a permanent mistake, I guess is my question.
Yeah. So it's a heat dependence thing. So if you run that back through and get a consistent heat into it again, it's going to anneal everything back to that consistent value. So yeah, if you mess up and you think you didn't anneal like the second half of a batch as well as you should have, or it didn't get as hot, then just run it right back through, and you're not going to damage it. You're just going to soften it back up.
So in other words, what he's saying is that you have to apply enough heat to it for a certain amount of time in order for it to read it, to lead it to its relaxed state.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's temperature time dependent, and more so temperature.
And if you run it through twice, so we obviously have expensive equipment to test Vickers hardness, and if you run it through twice at the same temperature, it doesn't change. So you're not going to hurt the brass, and if you don't soften it enough and you want to run it back through at a higher temp, you're not going to hurt the brass.
And we have a lot of people that call and say that, hey, we knock ours into water and temper it. Brass doesn't temper.
Yeah.
There's no iron in it to temper. So
Right.
But I'll tell you, it's a common question of ours. And
if you want to cool the case off, I say go ahead and knock it off. Put it in
or just
water.
air cool it.
Yeah, but people get that way. They want to play with that brass right away, so they want to cool it off and play with it. So you gotta, get people to sit down and say, okay, here it is, it's done. Let it cool off. Leave it alone. You're fine.
Yep.
So, so you're winning a lot of competitions now. You have team shooters.
Yeah, we have team shooters globally now. So yeah, Europe, New Zealand, Australia,
multiple disciplines,
multiple
FTR, bench rest.
Yeah, FTR, bench rest, precision rifle competitions. So that's kind of where we made our name. And then also, precision hunting, anything long range where people are just trying to extract the most performance out of their system.
ELR.
We haven't gone into those big cases yet, the larger cases. Actually, though, Clayton from West Texas Ordnance, who developed the 7 Saw, which I love that case. He actually, I think it was 2 years ago, he went out and won an ELR match shooting against like 338s and all those crazy cases with a little 308 case had 7 Saw. And so, I mean, are they what you would consider ELR cases? No, but they compete very well at long range. I know a number of shooters that are taking Dasher consistently, 12 to 1600 yards that shoot all the way out to there with it just because of the consistency of the case. But they're not your traditional ELR cases. We haven't ventured into that realm.
Okay. So you haven't moved into the 375 shy tags and that yet. Okay.
No.
Not yet. Soon.
Yeah, I don't know. We're our thing is with the technology and the stronger case, we can extract more performance out of the case. So we'd like to see if we can allow shooters to do more with less. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So if we can go down a cartridge and get the same performance with less powder, it's a win in our eyes. So, we haven't ventured into magnums yet. So it's something we're going to be looking at here probably in 24.
All right. That's like me. I'm looking at switching down to a 6BR and a 22BR for prairie dog shooting. So
great options.
Yeah, great options. 22 Dasher's phenomenal. They're all great options. Not for the prairie dogs.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a question for you. What benefit do you get in using small rifle primer versus large rifle primer?
It's actually a really good question. So we tested it, and there's actually the article was published in I think Sniper Magazine, where we tested like for like, so our brass in large and small primer, and we really didn't see any statistical difference. So what we say is the small primer is going to last longer in general because you got more meat around that primer pocket, but you're really not going to lose a ton of performance or consistency. If you try to compare a premium brand to brand that's not as consistent, larger or small, you're going to see an enormous difference, but that's not the primer pocket or the flash hole.
And that's where the
Right.
fallacy kind of originated from, because the only company that made small rifle primer like a 308 base case was Lapua. And so everyone was like, well, I'm going to take Lapua Palma brass and shoot it against Winchester. And it's like, that's not apples to apples. That's
like taking a
apples
Corvette.
to a carrot.
That's like taking a Corvette and running it against a Yugo.
Yeah.
So the data was skewed, but when you go like for like, and we generally pretty much everything we make now, we make in large and small.
I've noticed that. I saw that.
And as most of the custom actions now run small firing pins, which and a lot of the factory guns are going that route too, which that's kind of the limiting factor with small versus large primer. We're seeing a lot more people move to small primer. And so doing that test, it's I always tell people, do you have more large primers or small primers?
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing is you can actually find small rifle primers.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Right now, I've seen some more stuff where larges are starting to come in stock now.
They're starting to trickle in, but
smalls are definitely more prevalent.
Yeah, we got some BR2s in the other day at Cabela's. They didn't last long, but I think we got 1,000 of them in, and that's the first time we've seen them in 6 months.
Wow.
That's the first large rifle primers, period, in like 6 months. Now, I didn't need any because I have plenty, but
there are a lot of people on our forum that are sitting there looking for large rifle primers because they can't find anything.
Yep.
So I juggle between small and large. Sometimes I wish somebody would make a 22-250 with a small primer.
So when you get into magnums, there you go.
Yeah. But it's just because of the head expansion, because the more meat around the in the head for the between the small primer and the large primer, you don't get any primer pockets loosening as fast.
Correct.
Well, we also see that with our OCD technology, we don't get that much expansion in the cases with the large. So that's the good thing with our large too, is we get very good brass life out of it. You probably get a little edge with the small, of course, because there is a little more material, but we have seen superior performance with our large just due to our hardness values in those areas.
Okay, so I got a question. 6 arc, you going to make brass for it?
So we're evaluating it right now. So we move in the direction the community needs. So we're getting a lot of requests for it. Fabulous cartridge, being that it's based off of the PPC, which you can't argue with the accuracy of the PPC. So we're definitely taking a look at it. It's not something that's going to happen in the next month or two, but looking at it hard right now.
It's on the wish list.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
And then for my wish list, I want 22-250.
You tried a 22 Creed?
I not yet. No, I'm old school.
Yeah.
I've been shooting for 22-250 for over 40 years. So getting good brass in a 22-250 is very, very hard.
Yeah.
So start making me a couple of thousand.
We'll get right on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was kind of surprised that you do 7/8.
It's a great cartridge.
It's a greght cartridge.
Well, it's an amazing cartridge, and it's horribly underrated.
Yes.
I've got a few people I know that just absolutely have fallen in love with it once the first time they shoot it. Most of the stuff up here is whitetail, but you're getting the 308 capacity with the 7 ballistics.
Yep.
So
the bullet options are for the 7 mils they're incredible.
Yeah, and especially in the last 15 years, they've kind of even expanded more. It used to be, 140 was the top.
Yeah.
Now I heard they've got a couple of 180 options.
Oh yeah, easily. Yeah,
197.
197.
Yep.
197.
What's
I
the
run
BC on that thing?
Mm.
That's got to have some just awesome BC.
probably. Yeah, I run the 162s in my 7 mil. So I run the 7 saw, which is just it's a blown forward 7 Creedmoor. It's kind of like it's the Creedmoor version almost of a 708. And I run the 162 ELDMs at 2850, and it's not hot loaded at all. I run them up to 2950. I mean, you talk about it outperforms the 6.5 Creedmoor all day. Just also, kinetic energy down range. Then you look at ballistics performance because of the heavier bullet at similar speeds. I think the 708 is one of the most underrated cartridges out there. And there's so many times I've heard like, oh, that's my wife's gun or that's my kid's gun. I'm just like, I'd rather shoot the 708 than the 308 all day long.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah,
for sure.
It's a fantastic hunting cartridge.
Yeah,
and if you're getting that kind of velocity out of your 7, you're in the 7 rem mag velocity range as most hand loaders get, because they don't get what everybody thinks they get.
Yeah, no, it's the 7 mils are an absolutely phenomenal case. There's some magic about that bullet diameter that their ballistics coefficients are fantastic, and they also have great downrange performance. I will talk up the 7 mils all day long because I think they're great.
I agree with you.
And I think we're talking about doing, because of the lack of large rifle primers, we're talking about doing a run of 708 in the smalls to help fulfill those customers of ours that don't have any larges, because we saw that lack and we're like, hey, how do we help our customers out? And we're talking about doing that for our next production run.
Yeah. I see you make reamers too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that with the precision we're doing on the brass, we talk to tons of customers, and you get to see a lot of the issues out in the industry. And so again, we looked at the precision that we manufacture our tooling to. We said, why can't we make reamers to that precision? So, instead of plus minus, what is it, half a thou?
Depends on the grade.
Depends on the reamer. We're going to be within 1 to 4 microns on all key dimensions. The reamers have a different hone, a coating, and so they're just far more precise. They're a little bit more expensive, but it's if your chamber's off, you're going to waste a lot of money on components and time and loading. Your chamber needs to be absolutely perfect. So that's kind of where we said, let's get into the reamer business and guarantee the consistency.
And we're checking them again. QC is extremely important to us, in process and final QC. They're being checked on the Hela check, which is an incredible piece of equipment. And we're going through and measuring all critical dimensions on the reamers to make sure we do hit the accuracy we require.
So are they all with a floating
bushing?
Yeah.
So we also have our flutes run into the journal under the bushing so that we could coolant flow up into it. We only do carbide right now. We do not do tool steel. So there's, we do the C-clip front because doing any kind of most JGS reamers, right, or PGG, whatever, tool steel, you actually have this thread and you can screw into it to lock the bushing on. So we have to use a C-clip, but we run those flutes all the way down and through. So there's a good pathway for the oil to come through. We also change some of the flute depths to make sure that we get fluid up and through, especially on like 22 GT or a 22 Dasher, where you're running a 40-degree shoulder with such a small neck reduction up to that shoulder. That corner into there it's tight. And so to get chip flow up and out, we made sure we get enough flow. And so we deepened up some of the flutes and changed the designs in there to allow for those chip flows. But
so you said they're carbide reamers?
Yeah, we run carbide reamers. Mainly the precision we can grind with those is a little better. We can hold those stiffer. They're going to be naturally stiffer in your setups too. And so they're not going to deform, because a lot of times, right, even on the free floating holders or whatever tooling you're using, you're pushing up against, you're using the rifling to kind of guide it in. So you're going to get some kind of deflection in there. You're going to get movement. And so we don't want that. We don't want the bases to open up. So we use carbide reamers.
Okay. So that's got to add a lot of expense to the.
Yep. But yeah, and what really adds the expense is precision.
Mm-hmm.
When you start going down to micron level accuracy, the cost to make them gets really expensive, and there aren't very many machines in the world that can do it. But when you're putting together you're rebarreling your rifle or putting together a custom rifle, it's the most important piece of it, arguably.
And it's going to last. So you buy the reamer, like your 22-250 you've had for 10, 20 years, whatever you said it was. Like, you buy one reamer and I'm going to cut all your barrels for you. And that reamer is the exact same. You're going to get a little bit of tooling wear, but it's nowhere near as bad as your tool steel tool wear.
Yeah, I look at barrels as a replacement item. Okay,
Yep.
so
you make a 22 long rifle reamer?
We do. We got a lot of requests for it. We're supplying a lot of gunsmiths. Now, 22 long rifle kind of gets interesting. There's a lot of like voodoo behind the 22 long rifle chamber specs, and people will kill for certain chamber specs and not tell you anything. So that reamer right now is a standard match 22 long rifle. And it's performing well for our gunsmiths, but there's some other reamers out there that guys will not release the dimensions of. So,
and that's the one thing we will do. We share our reamer specs. They're open source.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if we get better results with a certain design, we want people go order a reamer from another company if it's going to give you better results in your rifle. It's all open source. If you email us, we'll email you a reamer print.
Yeah, you've got quite the selection of reamers too.
Yeah, we keep adding. So the goal obviously to have a full line.
We've been selling them for just over a year now, I think, roughly. And so more customers are requesting more calibers, and as they request them, we make them and put them in stock. And so we try to hold them in stock. A lot of gunsmiths and a lot of individual shooters are trying to order reamers, and they're being told 16 to 18 weeks. We try to have at least something in stock, and then if it's not in stock, within a few weeks after that, because we constantly try to recoup and keep them in stock. So if you need them, we try to have them.
Yeah, and actually, given everything, $290 for starting, up to $440 for some of the more intricate ones.
Yeah,
is not a bad price, really.
And the gunsmith, they will see a difference in the finish, in the chamber finish.
That's the big thing.
It's the first thing that they're going to notice when they chamber the rifle. Is the chamber is going to be, they're going to say it's the most beautiful chamber they've cut, and that's due to some geometries within the
big thing is the hones, the way we hone it.
And then they go in there and they rough it up with sandpaper. Okay.
Yeah, it's well, there's argument whether you're actually roughing it up or smoothing it out. So they
keep telling me they want good grip on the case to grip the chamber. So
yeah, you absolutely do need that. It's 100% true. But I'd like to get some tests where they run a profilometer in there and actually get surface finish measurements off of it to see what the differences truly are instead of visual. That's a good test we should do someday.
Before 90, right?
I have a question here. 300 WSM brass. Are you going to run any of that?
It's a great cartridge.
Yeah, it's a great cartridge. We haven't looked at that larger bolt face yet.
I think one of the things this might be a good time to explain too. When we design a new caliber, it's moving a battleship. Sourcing raw materials for these past few years has been challenging, as everyone knows. During COVID, brass prices went up through the roof, trying to get shipments in and shipping across the country. We order our raw materials. All of 2024 is ordered. So we have to order that far out to make sure we guarantee our delivery dates for raw materials. And it's the same for testing, unfortunately, where if I order a test cup now, I may not see it for 6 months. And we're trying to get it better. We're trying to do it so we can develop faster. But that's just part of the process. So for all these new calibers that individuals are saying, hey, let's take a look at that. Part of it is just it's a big battleship to move to get them done and to do them correctly. We don't want to design something and get it, oh, it's 80% there, release it. They'll be happy and we'll fix it for the next run. It's no, we're going to fix it. We're going to do it right. And so we'll make small differences. And it's funny. If you look at our Dasher to GT, our cups are different for those two cases. And if anyone knows that those two cases are very similar, there's pretty much just a small length difference, but we saw a difference in our tooling and we said, hey, we want to fix that from the cup. So we ordered 2 different cups. We stocked 2 different cups for those 2 cases. So we make sure we do it right.
Yeah. So we do listen to the community, and if they reach out and demand is there, as we make our decisions, we're taking that into account, obviously. So for us, it's not the highest volume cartridge. Does the cartridge fit into a precision? Are people using it, say, for hunting and competition? We like those a lot because we know they shoot well, and we know if we do what we do with our technology, we can increase the performance and make them more consistent. So we like that, but with that said, we are listening to the community and what they need.
Yeah. So it's a tough decision. I mean, you're sitting there saying we're limited right now to the 3 bolt faces, is what you're basically saying. And to go just to another bolt face is a big expense.
It's incredibly expensive. We're planning to do it, and I think as the supply chain gets a little bit better, and things slow down a little bit, it'll help things move a little bit faster.
Yeah. And to your point about great expense, when we change bolt faces, for those who don't understand the brass manufacturing industry, you've got to change hoppers, parts movers, indexing plates, all your dies, your feeding systems, like all of it changes for just
it's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and a lot of design time and all of it.
Yeah, but we're gonna do it, so it's just a matter of time.
Yep.
Now, with the increase in 3D printing, are you guys using that technology for some of your initial designing and testing, as opposed to the way it used to be done?
Not so much on tooling designs, because it doesn't really help you
hold up at all.
Doesn't hold up, but we do use 3D printing. We built our own inspection machine, and it's all robotic. If you go to our Instagram page, there's a video that kind of walks you through it. And so there's a lot of small components on there that are 3D printed. We're some of the materials properties of 3D printing for parts movers and things like that aren't quite there yet, but they're getting close.
So do you have a specific cartridge that's next?
We have a few that are in development where we don't say what's currently in development, just because if
it doesn't work out, now you've got a whole bunch of people we're expecting.
And it's a long process. So
yeah.
it's the emails start coming in.
Right.
So we don't generally announce it until right before release, but
makes sense.
Yeah.
So what do you do with the brass that doesn't quite meet specs? You just recycle it, or? Yep.
Well, yeah, we have a local recycling company. They come pick it up, and we never see it again.
I'll shoot some of it.
So yeah, if it's blem stuff, but we generally don't have blems.
Right. Because of the process.
Yep. All the scrap goes to a recycling center and becomes an electric car, or whatever comes next.
Yeah, probably gets sold to China.
So I see one of the links on the website is Cowber's Wind Constant Calculator.
Yep.
How did that make it to the website, and just out of curiosity.
So Jim was part of the company, and he's got a long history with the military, and he does a lot of training actually in Illinois at the site. You guys heard of the site?
Yep.
So
I've
he
shot
runs
there.
Okay, Jim
It's a
runs
nice range.
It's a great range. Old Blackwater facility, and Jim runs that range, and just through his expertise, he developed that.
Decades of watching wind.
Yeah, decades of watching wind. He developed the mathematical formulas for that.
And the nice thing with it's very simple too. You have a couple constants that you just have to remember for your caliber, simple division, and it makes it very quick and easy where you can recall it in short notice, or the math is rather easy. So there's a lot of guys that will go out there and they'll teach these winds. It's like, oh, you need to see this and that and do this math, and you got to get a calculator out to do this. It's like Jim set it up to be stupid proof. He set it up where you can, do it in the field when you're busy thinking about 10,000 other things.
So he's operating in the KISS theory.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, yep.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Oh
yeah. That's it, and yeah, it works.
Oh, well, I just looked at it because I eventually will be getting into long range. I've got I picked up we had one of the Ruger
RPRs.
No, I don't have that type of money. But we had one of the Ruger American with the better barrel on it come in, and so one of the guys bought it at a heck of a deal from the customer, and then I picked it up for a heck of a deal. So I'm gonna get into long range. It's got the it's 22-inch threaded barrel. It's a thicker barrel, so
good. What caliber?
6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a great all-around cartridge.
So, or as Paul likes to call it, the 6.5 need more.
Needs more. Yeah.
Yeah, the Creedmoor is actually it's funny because it gets a bad rap, but I don't think people really understand if you take like a 6.5 Creedmoor and a 260. And you look at the design philosophies of both. The 6.5 Creedmoor is actually brilliant because by dropping that shoulder down lower, you give yourself more room in the mag for the real high BC bullets. And so now you can load where in a 260 you'd be shoved way into the body of the case. 6.5 Creedmoor, that high BC bullet, even like 153s and 156s are still not stuck way down in the case. So
the base of the bullet isn't so far into the case because of the long neck on it. So
exactly.
For mag feeding purposes, and have that neck's pushed back down shorter, right?
Right.
So yeah, you're not taking that powder column up.
So it's actually a great design, and same with the 7 PRC and a lot of these modern cartridges where they're designed around these really high BC bullets.
Mm-hmm.
We were working this back in the 80s, though, when we were taking these short, fat cases with longer necks, and making things happen, and a lot of them fell by the wayside. 25 WSSM,
all of the WSSMs.
Yeah, but this short, fat, long neck case, and it died. Why does the 6.5 come around? Because it kept the 308 bolt face.
I think that's part of it. I think there was a desire to extend the range of a 308, and the 6.5 does that really well. And honestly, though, except with you start running the 308, some of these higher BC bullets, the 308 range is getting extended as well.
Well, it's all the same that I see, but it was the design of the case to that, and people, the marketing of it. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hornady did a great job marketing.
They did a great job marketing. Like with the 308, you're running. I think it's Sammy's like a 96 style free bore. You're shoving that bullet way into the case. 6.5 Creedmoor, you're running a 199 free bore. You can jump the bullet further. You can put big heavies in it with no problem. It really opens up the performance window of that cartridge.
Very versatile.
It's very versatile, and that's that should be the design philosophy for all modern cartridges, that allows you to mag feed those high BC bullets that aren't seated all the way down into the case.
Well, I mean, I have some 308s that have long throats, and I have some 308s that have short throats, depending upon what they're used for. So a reamer and it can be made to do a lot of things.
Absolutely.
And and give a guy a throating reamer, and you can do quite a bit more. 308 is limited to that 2.8, and you're stuck. Maybe 2.82 or whatever, but you're stuck. Shorten the case and give it a longer neck, and all of a sudden you can stick that bullet way out there and not worry about, as long as you got enough case to hold the boat tail and the shank of the bullet.
I think that's the 30T. Wasn't it a 30TC was one of the original? Was that? Yep.
That was one of the original ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like you said, those short action magnums, they're quite interesting from that standpoint.
Yeah, they were there. Everybody came out with them. They were, it was Winchester mostly, and you're sitting there looking at them and going, these ought to be interesting. And all of a sudden, dead. I mean, just dead.
Yeah. Well, you can't find brass for it, right? That's the hard issue, is that there's not too much. There's no brass out there for those cases.
Yeah, WSSMs, the SOMs, they're all great cases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but they're dead because there's no brass. Yeah. We had a show just on dead cartridges. If you get a poster with all the cartridges that they're out there, you're going to start marking a lot of cartridges off because they're basically dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The hard thing is I would say too, there's those great cartridges like some of the WSMs, but there's also so many cartridges out there that do the exact same thing as another case or another cartridge, and it's like, why did you guys come up with that? There's no.
They wanted something with their name on it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Hornady's been doing a good job lately. Advancing cartridge design. They've done a really good job.
Advancing the cartridge design, still selling cheaper bullets than everybody else.
Yep.
And they're good.
The new A-tips are phenomenal. They're expensive, but they're great bullets.
ELDMs though, I love those bullets.
But they're still, if you look at between the Nosler and Sierra, they're cheap.
They're cheap. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they're available. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I'm a big shooter of Sierra 85 grain hollow point bow tail in 6mm. Okay. I got 2 boxes of them the other day, and that's all I've been able to find.
Yeah.
They explode prairie dogs very well, but if you can't get them, they're not, what can you do?
Yeah.
Yep.
You're stuck.
But everybody is on the ball game to make 102, 103, 105, 108, 115 6mm bullets. You can get them all day long.
Yeah, I mean it's harder, for our customer that's saying shooting competitions. I mean, you guys probably know that they're shooting between 5 and 15,000 rounds a year. Yeah. This season, Hornady bullets were available. One of the most popular bullets are the Berger 105s and 109s, the 6 mils.
Mm-hmm.
And those have just been unavailable for months and months and months. So Hornady's picked up a lot of that business with the new 109, the A-tips. But yeah, the 6 mil bullets are really popular right now.
Well, it's for a PRS shooter. He's sitting there putting together his 18 to 22 pound rifle, putting it up out there, and he can watch the trace all the way through his scope without any recoil.
Yep.
You know,
That's one of my favorite things to do is take someone that hasn't shot a 25-pound rifle in
with a giant break.
With a giant break and a competition caliber, and they'll pull the trigger on that dasher, and it's that turnaround look that you get from them. Where
you can turn
it's
around,
fun.
he looks at you, and then he turns and he looks through his scope, and because he can still see the target, and you can watch it move.
Yeah, free recoiling is unfair with those rifles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's why they're there. But we're still sitting at those are the newest cartridges that we're seeing being on the market that are really making moves are the 6mm. I have another gun in 6XT. It's a little bit much. That's why I'm dropping down to the 6 BR and the 22 BR.
And the GT, which was George Garner and Tom Jacobs, that was recently SAMI'd by Hornady, and they're so great because you can go out and you can shoot 200-300 rounds over a weekend, and you're not worn out at all. Versus taking out a larger cartridge where it beats you around a lot. So that's why these guys can go out and shoot competitions 2 days in a row at 200-300 round count. And it's manageable and it's fun.
Yeah. But you're making brats for all this, and we're sitting there looking at, cartridges that a lot of the regular shooters here aren't going to see. Okay, 6GT. Not a lot of guys who are going to look at them.
Right.
They should.
Because, well, I know they should, but they're not making a rifle. They're sitting there, they're buying one because a lot of our guys are first-time reloaders, first-time shooters, and they're sitting there going, we're trying to explain to them, the thing is brass, bullets, and barrels. And
the nice thing about the GT is because it was SAMI, you're going to start to see a lot of the large companies now releasing GT rifles, and they've started already.
Browning's got one.
Seekins. So we're going to see more and more of those.
Probably see a Savage 110. I'm pretty sure.
Yep, I think you'll see that. It's interesting that we can see a question from Ken Brown.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I was just talking to, there's an Instagram page. It's called Reloading All Day. He does a lot of really good testing.
Yeah, he does.
So we just tested this. So he had a lot of our GT brass from a year and a half ago, and I just sent him the new lot. And I said, just tell me, let's just see what it does. And he called me over the weekend, and so after fire forming, he was within 2 feet per second of the previous lot. And so that's always our goal.
Wow.
We test every lot for the Annealing Made Perfect, the AMP annealing machine. They have a feature called Aztec that analyzes the brass and gives you a code. So across, I think, our last 4 lots of Dasher, the code has not changed, and the GT, the code's never changed. So it's our goal is to maintain incredible consistency. We can't speak for other companies, but mixing lots is almost never an issue.
Also, how we are able to do that is because of our tooling design and the manufacturers, the shops we use to make our tooling. We're brass manufacturers, and we went to the experts in punches, carbide punches, and in all these dies and all that. We found the best shops in the country that can do it, that can hit extremely tight tolerances, and we'll pay extra to go to the best shops to make sure we are 2/10,000ths on a diameter from punch to punch to punch, to make sure that our internal geometries are the same, so that when we do have, that punch is going to wear out, I'm going to have to replace it. I want to make sure the one going in is almost identical to it. And so we'll get the best tooling manufacturers to make our tooling for us so that we can then provide the best product. And back to the very first thing we talked about with the QC, again, we're measuring wall thicknesses, we're measuring neck diameters, we're measuring all these different dimensions to ensure the product comes out the same.
And so we always tell people, get your virgin firing out of the way. And if you're close to the firing count, just do a quick 5-shot test, chrono it, and you're in the ballpark. Just mix the lots.
Okay.
So, how many steps are involved from cup to completed brass to completed cartridge?
Well, I'm not including wash steps, 10.
Okay.
And then final quality control. So 100% of the parts we produce goes through our proprietary inspection machine that checks all exterior critical dimensions, case heads, laser 3D scans the neck and the shoulder, and then does a precision weight scale. So 10 manufacturing steps plus our final quality control and washes.
So that's our goal. Is we kind of looked at the market, and so when we receive our product, it's in a custom made hard ammo box with 2 pieces of foam. Because if we sell you a product and you're willing to, part with your hard-earned money, then we want to make sure that every piece arrives perfect, that you don't have to open up a box with a bunch of dented parts in it and fix them.
Yeah.
You get 2 pieces of foam, you take 1 piece of foam out, you toss it, and place the other piece of foam in for your loaded ammunition. And our goal is that when that brass arrives, all you need to do is chamfer and deburr the mouth, prime it and load it and go.
Okay. So you have no tool and die makers in your shop at all then, right?
We leave the experts to do that. We're a small company. Our resources are to make the best brass. We went out and we found the best tool and die shops out in the country, and we use their expertise, and we pay for it. They're expensive, but we see huge advantage to use them. So we didn't want to, learn how to make brass and develop calibers, then, learn this grinding operation over here to try and figure out how to do the best dies. We wanted to go to the best shops that already do that, lean on them to help us there, and then we'll produce the brass.
So then the reamers are being made by another manufacturer then, and
correct.
you are the distribution for it. Okay.
Yep.
So
it's our design.
Right.
And they manufactured our spec, and we have there's maybe a handful of grind shops in the country that can do what they do with holding these tight tolerances. The machinery to do it is, if their only business was reamers, they'd be out of business because their equipment is so expensive. Just the QC inspection machine is mid to high 6 figures. So we found a shop that would work with us on an exclusive basis. They're absolutely incredible, and we're just a small part of their business.
And we partnered with them to develop these reamers. So it was, hey, here's the test tooling geometry. Let's see how it runs. They ground them. They took the money to grind them. We then took them and went through in all the testing. We had to buy the barrels, see how they cut, see how everything performs. And we went through a couple iterative processes. We tried different coatings, and we figured out, hey, this is the design that's working well. So it was very much a joint partnership where we use our expertise in the shooting industry to design the dimensions and make sure the reamers are correct. And then they are the experts with grinding and cutting. And we figured out how to make the right reamer.
Well, I think you sold a couple more reamers.
Hopefully.
People, they're being very, very well received. And, for us, it's guys that we hold very high regard as far as gunsmiths. And we worked with, the top gunsmiths in the country. And when they told us something wasn't right, we changed it. And so we were able to go back and forth and get their feedback to make them as good as they are.
I like to own my own reamers. That's all.
Yeah.
So,
you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
You know how many cuts are on them and that they're gauged correctly.
Right.
Yep.
So.
If you want precision and accuracy, you got to control as many variables as you can, and that's a quite important one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't have any more questions. Does anybody else?
pretty much done.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to share?
No, just we really appreciate you guys having us on, and yeah, it's great meeting you.
Yeah, great to meet you. Awesome to have you on. Awesome to hear about the company and the processes and the thought and desire behind it. So
Yeah, and again, we're you know, we love the shooting community. We're part of the shooting community. So if people have questions, there's a contact form on our website. We answer every single email that comes through personally. So we're more than happy if people have additional questions to answer them.
Anybody out there got any questions?
Oh, you guys have got distributors in South Africa and Sweden and Germany and down under and Canada, UK.
Yeah, it makes us really proud. There is a I think it's called the Precision Rifle Federation. It was 28 countries represented, shot in France, and the top 5 were U.S. shooters in the men's division shooting our brass, which was fantastic.
Wasn't like 6 and 7 overseas, and they were shooting our brass too.
Yeah, I think the 6th position was a European shooting our brass, but it was very, very cool to see that 28 countries are now participating in long range shooting sports.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely taken off, especially the last 5 years.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I think honestly, I think that the 2 biggest things that I've seen that changed it is Ruger Precision Rifle and 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yep.
100%.
100%. That helped kick it off. And if anyone's, we always tell people, if anyone's kind of thinking about it, find a one-day match in your area.
Go watch
or go shoot it. And as far as I'm concerned, the people in this community are the best in the world. They'll help you. They'll hand you their rifle to shoot it that day. It's intimidating, but the community is so amazing that you're going to get all the help that you need and advice that you need.
We had a listener, a member of the Discord, who went out to his first F class, short range F class, and one of the guys there just handed him the rifle and said, lay down and shoot.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, you'll find the shooting community is great. They want to get you involved. It's funny, in the PRS, there's a few young kids that are coming up. And they'll whoop the crap out of any 30-year-old, 40-year-old shooter like all day long. So it's great to see the young kids coming up through the sports, and you may want to go say, hey, I'm going to go help you, but they're going to teach you a thing or two.
Yeah, I was watching
Jake Millard
Shooting USA a couple weeks ago, and they were covering the PRS Nationals, and there was a couple of 14-year-old young ladies in there that were just smoking people.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think in the Worlds there was a division for females, but if you took their score, they beat almost all the males in the male competition. So it's definitely
Yep.
There's not an advantage being a male in the shooting sports.
Nope. So I see you've got quite a few U.S. distributors too. A couple of the big ones, Brownells and Midway, and Wood and Gunworks. So that was neat to see.
Yep.
So he's got a lot of good stuff. We've had him on the show a couple times talking about some of his stuff. So
good guy.
Yeah, great guys.
Yep. So. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate the time, and we'll go ahead and cut you loose. And so maybe next time when you get to officially releasing some more cartridges or other stuff, we'll have you on again.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thank you very much, and appreciate the effort to and the dedication to making a beyond quality American made product.
Yeah,
So
that's the goal.
Thank you, sirs.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you guys very much. Have a good night.
thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Good night. That went well.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So
Yes,
you're gonna buy a
Ken.
couple reamers?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Good.
Yes, Ken. 1,000. Yes. I'm sorry. I said short range.
Well, short range F class is 600.
Yeah, but he said
So-
he was long range. He was
Oh.
at 1,000.
All right.
So,
So Paul, you gotta buy a 308 reamer, and then I can send my Mauser down to you, that 1916, so you can clean that
Okay.
chamber out for me.
just what I want to run.
That'd be fun though. Come on.
Oh yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
So anyway, that was really cool. So
You were
So-
quiet, Chris.
he's muted.
Yeah, he's muted. He doesn't.
I was
need
trying to
be.
certify paperwork
You
form
have to
for
unmute down.
a customer, and we kept getting fatal session on the HEFE forms. So we'll try again tomorrow night.
Bastards.
'Cause that stuff is fun because you and your client or customer have to be logged on at the same time to certify your e-form.
Nice. So I think you purposely have that light behind your head so it kind of gives you a halo effect, so you look.
That's actually the window.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Nice.
the window. It's got the halo over there.
Mhm.
I'm waiting for the other light streak to come down and highlight,
Oh, you mean the bolt of lightning?
the bolt of lightning.
Yep. No, Chris is so lucky he wouldn't get that through the top of his head. He'd get it anally. So what's everybody been up to?
Not much. I'm up here in Illinois again, going to see doctors. That's me.
Yes, sounds like fun.
Oh yeah.
So
And Nick
I
has
don't
been buying. Nick's dad has been buying stuff left and right.
Well, I bought some stuff over the weekend too. So,
What? Well, what was that? The Polish pistol?
well, he bought that, and then the Ross. I bought a Remington rolling block and a Gewehr 8805.
Okay.
So we had a pretty productive weekend at the show.
6-pack project said daylight still there. Damn. Well, it's still daylight here too, for that matter. So
Yeah, it's
6-pack project must be an East Coaster.
Yeah.
So, and then Ken Brown giving you crap.
Yeah. Well,
You handled the 6.5 Creedmoor praise very well. You deserve a cookie.
Yeah.
I don't think your doctor wants you to have a cookie, so no cookie for you.
No cookie. So. Yeah.
Nick, 6-pack project wants to know what your rolling block is.
it's a 7mm Mauser.
So,
Not sure what country. It's one of a couple. Could be Mexico, Argentina. I think there's like 4 or 5 countries that use the 7mm. But I'm gonna get the book eventually, and there's a few markings on there, so we'll get it figured out eventually.
so I
How's
picked
the
up a
board?
smoke pole.
Yeah, it's a little short in the ramrod.
Yeah, I noticed that. So I don't know. It's a CVA project, build your own. So I don't know. The only problem I don't like is this ramrod. For one thing.
Oh, that's
Bye-bye.
short.
Good boy. Where it go? It won't poof. But the other problem is the one end's not threaded, so you can put jags and stuff in it. So I will be buying a ramrod.
Fiberglass.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this is a good old fashioned.
Yeah.
So, and it's got the half cock and full cock.
Better have the half cock.
I've seen some of them that don't. So, but
that's your safety, son.
Yep. The ones that don't, you just don't put the cap on until you're ready to shoot. So.
Oh yeah, I can see you doing that.
So, Ken says 3D print a cap for your rod. No, rod's too short. So, sights are actually pretty nice. So.
Ken Brown spent some money.
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
Yeah. Wow.
So he bought an Auto Trickler V4. That's used though. Yeah. And a new A&D FX 120i this weekend. So
yeah. I'm sure whoever he bought it from didn't discount it that much though.
No.
So 6-pack project. He said, how far too short? It's all the way inside the barrel. And if your ramrod doesn't stick out far enough that you can actually hold it while you're trying to pack the bullet down and the powder down, that's not a good thing. So
yeah, you can always just put a cap on, pull the trigger, so you can try, go on to the next step.
Six-pack project said will flush as normal. Okay. I always thought ramrods were longer. So
no, the flush is normal because you have to add the powder, the patch, and the bullet. And that way, you know where you're at. Because if you're too long and you don't know where you're at, you could have an airspace in there, and that could lead to a little issue.
Ken says with add-ons and shipping, he saved $100. So that's not bad.
It's still savings.
Yeah. So
that's a half a case of his 9mm ammo.
Yep.
Or one box of primers.
Yeah.
Unless they're BR2s, then it's not.
So. Well, I know when you guys were talking about that, I know distributor-wise, they've had small rifle, small pistol, and large pistol. I think I just got it in stock, and they had over 200 cases of each, but no large rifle at all. I haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah.
I can back order it, but who knows when they'll come in.
Yep.
So
how's the house turning out there, Chris?
We're getting there. We've got the contractor coming back in next month. He's gonna do the other half bath, the other full bath, basically the laundry area into redoing all that into what was the office reloading room. That's why I'm moving everything up here, getting the benches in finally, and that's gonna become Stacy's pantry. So that's why she kind of, where I'm doing all this stuff and getting all the trim done, I'm doing that work for her. She's basically allowed me to have this whole area to do whatever I want. She goes, I don't care what you do up there. It's like,
house burns from the top down, so it's not a problem.
Yeah. That's where the all explosive material will be anyways up here.
Yep. So she's got you going more broke, or the bank, okay, lending you money going to doing bathrooms.
Oh, I took a loan out to do all this because.
Oh, I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not that I don't have the. It's not that I can't do it. It's like I don't have enough time to do all the projects. So it's like I will hire somebody out to do it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And they're the second most expensive thing in the house.
Yep. yeah, we just did our master bath, and I can't remember how much we paid on that.
Yeah.
Bathrooms are one of those things that unless that's what your job is, hire it out.
Yep.
Because there's so many stupid little details, especially with code. There's so many stupid little details that you don't know or you don't plan ahead for. And the next thing you know, the only thing that works in the bathroom is the hot water on the sink and literally nothing else. The toilet won't flush. Your wife's wondering why the toilet won't flush after she just dropped a deuce.
Well,
and you got to figure out what went wrong.
Well, and that's why we hired the guy we did, because he's a plumber by trade. He owned his own plumbing business, sold it. And so he got his license and bonded contract and all that. And so he's doing this as a side gig for something to do to get out of the house.
Yep.
And it's like, cool. Hey, you want to do this? And he did the master bath, and it fabricated the entire vanity out of barnwood from the family ranch.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And so he's going to continue that theme to the other two bathrooms. And it's like, once I saw what he did, I was like, damn. So,
come here, Penny.
Does your visitor want to join the show?
Come here, Penny. Come on. Come here, Penny. Up. Come on. Oh, she won't.
She's being shy.
She's being shy.
Yeah.
But as far as me, I'm just doing little projects here and there on top of working. I'm building a short barrel rifle for myself.
What you building?
300 blackout.
Nice.
Yeah.
What length?
I went with a 10-inch barrel from Faxon.
Yeah.
So I kind of figuring out, I was like, yeah, that's about what I want. So essentially all I had to do is just do an upper, and I'm just going to form one the lower I already have. So
there you go. So well,
but I think I told you, Mike, moving everything up here, I didn't realize how much crap components I had stored until I'm like, I don't remember having all this shit.
Yeah, I don't even know all of the stuff I have, because when I literally moved most of the stuff from the garage, it was just a quick process, get it in here and then figure it out later, and I've never figured it out later. So
two pickup trucks and 2 utility trailers full just for my reloading room. Okay, 2.
Wow. Well, the thing is, Paul, some of the brass I ordered for like the 6.5 and 308, I got it in, and I'm like, cool. And as I'm pulling stuff out, I'm like, I found brand new boxes of brass from Starline. I was like, when the hell did I get this in?
Yeah,
this isn't what I just ordered. And I was like, damn it. I mean, you can't have too much brass, but
you know, the longer you reload, the bigger the room you need.
Oh yeah. Well, I started this process in 17, and you're in 23, and I'm like going, I outgrew that place fast down there.
You're ex-military, so you remember Murphy number 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Junk rises to exceed space.
Well, the nice thing is I've started upgrading. Like I got that auto trickler. I finally sold the RCBS. So there's some of the equipment as I'm upgrading. I've already got people like, oh yeah, when you get rid of that, let me know. Because I'm cutting deals on it, so I can just get it out of here.
Yeah.
So it looks like Nick's moved into the new house.
Yeah, Candy's got her bed made already and all set.
Have you ordered any gun mufflers yet, Nick?
No, I'm so busy between work, and Dad was over here today starting put more electrical outlets in the garage. We're gonna get that project finished hopefully middle to end of this week, and then probably start on the bench in the basement.
There you go.
this weekend I'm going to a shoot. I'm getting paid to go to it from work.
How'd you
Just
swing that?
well, we actually had this organization that's doing it contact us, or I should say, my outreach guy contacted them and said, "Hey, we're Casper Vet Center, and this is what we do, and we're all gun guys and vets, and we could, like, come down and help you if you need." And they're like, "Sure." And basically, they started out with 2 years ago, and now they got 8 locations they do up throughout the nation, and it's free for all vets and their families. They do 3-gun, long range, and pistol shoots. And
Awesome.
the way they do it is, if you win your division, you get to take those firearms home that you shot. They provide the firearms.
That's pretty cool.
I was like, damn, yeah, this is a company we can get behind and help.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was going to do Sam's shoot down in Cheyenne this month, but we had a family obligation doing a celebration of life, so I didn't go down to Cheyenne to shoot his.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about Patriot Patch Company. So this is the July patch of the month. Jake sent out the email with the August patch of the month. It looks like it's going to be pretty cool. Speaking of pretty cool, if you're watching this live, make sure you check out the moon tonight because it's supposed to be sweet. But Patriot Patch Company, they make the patch of the month, which comes with a actual morale patch, vinyl sticker, and they include a copy of Ryan Cross's original drawing. And it's kind of cool to lay the drawing next to the actual patch and see maybe what changed a little bit, because usually there's little changes here and there, but not always. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, patriotpatch.co, make sure you check them out. Not only the patches, but they also make other stuff and have other stuff available. So make sure you swing over, check them out. And as lots of people are finding out, including people in this area, we had some storms roll through over the weekend and last weekend, and there's still I think 500 people today without power. So that was Saturday night or Friday night that it came through. And there's still some people without power. So what do? I mean, you go to 4patriots.com and you get one of their solar generators. You don't have to worry about fuel because you got the sun. And you can use it inside. You don't have to worry about trying to vent it outside. So keep your fridge running if you need it, or keep your freezer running with all your meat in it. Paul and I be able to run your CPAP. So if it's your first time purchasing from 4patriots.com, you can use the code FRN and you get 10% off. They also have a bunch of survival food. They've got water filtration stuff, all sorts of stuff for survival, and also, just kind of daily life. The food's actually pretty good, and it's actually filling. As you can tell, I like to eat, and I like the food, so it comes in handy. The problem is you get it, and then you don't want to eat it. So yeah. That's 4patriots.com. Swing over and check, tell them we sent you.
They're also running a $500 off the best-selling solar generator right now, too.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. So that'll even save you some money. We've got the Sun Kettle solar cooker. They've got a couple of water filtration systems. Like I said, they've got the survival food, and the food's really good, actually. So they've got an all-in-one emergency car kit. That's a handy thing to have. So power, food, water in one, 95 car safety items. It fits in your trunk. Free shipping. So, and you can, if you don't want to drop all the money in one shot, they've got shop pay, so you can do payment installments. So something to think about. But yeah, definitely. So, anybody got any shout outs? Just a shout out once again to Alpha Munitions coming on and talking for so long. I was kind of expecting, 20 minutes, half hour, and they were on for an hour and 20. So that was pretty awesome.
Very knowledgeable gentleman, and
Willing to share the knowledge, which is important.
And I got to try some of their brass.
Yeah.
I know it's too small for you, Chris. You got all the Magnum bolt faces.
I mean, I'm hoping that another company gets into the 6-arc because, well, hell, as soon as Starline put their stuff out, it was sold out within 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You can always look for 6.5
Grendel
or 220 Russian. We can always make it for you.
Well, I'm not too worried about that. I mean, I had bought enough factory stuff that I've probably got 200, 250 or 260 rounds or so. So I'm good for now. But I was looking at their stuff. I've been kicking around another build either. I know Paul's going to give me crap for another Creedmoor, but a 22 or a 25 Creed.
No, it's not bad. I don't care. I'm not worried about the 6 Creed or the 22 Creed. Those are
just
interesting. Just the 6.5, because I think the 6.5 has got a lot of competition there that is as good as or better than, and the hype that was there for it. So,
well, as we said, Hornet did a hell of a marketing job.
Sure did.
I mean, they launched it as a long-range precision cartridge, and then once they realized it wasn't selling, they turned around and started marketing as a hunting rifle, a hunting cartridge. And let's face it, that's the only reason that cartridge survived, is because they marketed the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's essentially the 224 Valkyrie of the 6.5s. It's one that they brought out. It's like, what the hell do we need this for? Why did somebody think this was a good idea? It's kind of dumb, and they marketed the hell out of it, and away you go.
Well, like I look at the 22 Creedmoor. Hey, that's not too bad. And then I hear that some guys are taking and shortening 6.5 PRC cases down to 22 and blowing the shoulders out on them.
That could be fun.
Yeah.
I was impressed that they're making 7/8 brass.
I noticed that when I got on their site. I was like, ooh.
Everything else they're making is a long-standing shooting competition brass. And then they make 7/8. I'm like, wait, what?
Well, in the before you were born days, 708 was the cartridge for the silhouette shooters, the long-range silhouette shooters. So, I mean, and because they couldn't, in Mexico, they couldn't use the 308 because that was a military cartridge. 708 was fine, and a lot of them were using 708s to
oh yeah, I mean,
for silhouette, and
708's an amazing cartridge.
Yeah, but long range silhouette shooting off your hind legs at what was it, 600 700 yards, that was a big game for a long time. So, and in Mexico they use real live animals, so
yeah. So, all right, gang. Well, I think that about wraps it up for tonight. So,
yeah, I really appreciate those guys coming on. They really did a good job, and
yeah,
They really, really knew their stuff. And when they started talking reamers in the $400 range being solid carbide, that's not bad. Okay.
No, I mean that's the thing is I saw the prices on the reamers. I'm like, well, that's not really that high. So
Considering K&M just came out with a primer pocket reaming tool. Okay.
Yeah.
For that solid carbide, just to do primer pockets for $150.
Right.
So you're
And the
talking,
fact that they are purposely building these reamers so that if you buy one now and you buy one 10 years from now, it's going to be the same.
if you need to buy one 10 years from now.
Yeah, I mean,
That's-
gunsmiths probably, but
Yeah, I mean, that's even a gunsmith, he'd have to chamber, 500 guns with it to even get to the point.
Yeah.
Or else drop it. That's the one thing you have to worry about with a reamer is dropping it.
Right.
Especially carbide.
Yeah.
Glass. They're like glass. Whoosh,
Yep.
Gone. So.
Ken said the primer pocket reamer is overpriced. Yep. So. Well, I think that about wraps that up, gang. So, on that note, keep your brass shiny.
Jump on the Millsap short bus.
Shoot smarter, not harder.
Grandpa told me, he says, don't listen to your mama. He goes, violence does solve problems.
And Sharenda, who had computer issues this evening, and that's why she disappeared, would say, teach a lady to reload and let her pinch off your stash. Jim would say, support the Second Amendment. Make sure, and I add on to that, make sure you're supporting your local and state organizations as well as your nationals. And most importantly, if you're struggling, 988 or 1-800-273-8255. Reach out, get some help. We need you here. We want you here. And GGW Outdoors says, keep your jewels dusted. So, can't have no dusty jewels. Good night, all.
Good night.